Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Yo, what's going on? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's your hostess with the mostest. It's PKR, Pastor Keenan Riley, back with another episode of People Suck. And yes, they do, but we have to love them anyways.
Unfortunately.
And as always, yes, if you did not hear him, his monotone voice, I am joined by Jalapeno Popper Nick.
Jalapeno Pop. What happened to James? I thought I was going to be called James today.
I felt like jumping Jehoshaphat James was a lot to come out with in one breath.
I mean, you just did it.
I went safe, which probably speaks to my faith. I need to work on it. I went safe, and I went Jalapeno Popper Nick, which makes no sense. It doesn't even flow together. And that's what happens when you operate in the flesh, man. Nothing makes sense, and it doesn't flow together. Yeah. So that's the episode. We love you so much. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope we help somebody today. So there you go.
Yeah.
Dynamite drop in, sir.
No.
Well,
I didn't know. I was about to play the outro music.
Oh, was that it?
Nah, man, it's fine.
Man. So anyways, we thank you guys so much for tuning in, for hitting that download button, for telling a couple people. Maybe you only know one person. Maybe you're on that remote island somewhere in the world where you only know one other person, and it's a volleyball. If you have not watched Castaway, you would not know.
Speaking of the cabal, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. So,
thanks.
Number one joke dead somewhere over there. We'll kick that one to the side and try to get better. But yeah, again, thank you so much for tuning in, for hitting that download button. We pray that you continue to do so. And Nick informed me this week that we added Alaska to the download list, right? So somebody in Alaska owns a phone. That's pretty amazing.
Hey, I didn't even think they had internet out there.
Actually, internet in Alaska is brought to you by Telecast Communications.
Yeah, I was going to shout him out back there. He's hiding behind us.
Yeah, so shout out Telecast for bringing internet all the way to Alaska. Right there, you go. We're going to get you some business.
Won't he do it?
Yeah, won't he do it? That's what he does. So very thankful for Alaska to be on the board. That puts us at 30 what states?
38, I think.
38, 39 states, something like that. 40 plus countries, man. So it's cool to have the ears of people out there hearing about the message, man. That's really a cool thing. So are you still looking it up?
Yeah, 38.
38 states, man. That is fantastic. I feel like we've been on 38 for a minute.
Mm-hmm. We were on 37 for a minute.
Yeah. Well, that's
now
true,
we're on
too.
38.
That's true, man. So today we talked about the least of these was the topic of the sermon, or the
whole thing.
Yeah, or the topic of the sermon, whichever one you want to look at. It was the topic of the sermon, the least of these, and it was about a conversation that the disciples were having with Jesus. They came to him with a simple question, and they said, "Who's going to be the greatest in the kingdom one day?" You know, who's going to be the greatest in heaven? And Jesus, without hesitation, pulls this child right up next to him. And he says, hey, look, he says, unless you transform the way you think and become teachable, then you may never enter or inherit heaven. And I was telling people today, man, as I read that response right there from Jesus, it just began to put everything, number one, into perspective for me. I think we make heaven unobtainable a lot. I said that today. I think we make it like this place that that is almost like untouchable or unreachable, versus we're trying to get as many people there as we can. Like we're trying to take busloads with us, as many people as we can. And I think we kind of go opposite end of that a lot of times. And this is the KRV version. This is me talking with my opinions, but I think it's because, as we talked about today, we take that childlike mentality and faith and we veer away from it because we quote unquote grow up. Some of us do, and become adults and try to get in the hustle and bustle of life with kids and families and jobs and everything else. And we take this childlike faith that we had whenever we were children and we just set it to the side. Everything was cool. Everything was possible. Everything was imaginable as a kid. And we had really no limits on our thought processes. And as adults, it's like we rationalize everything and we see things through our physical eyes. And Jesus in this moment in time is saying a lot of, hey man, you have to transform the way you think, the way you see things, and you have to be teachable. And if there's one specific group of people on this planet that I feel like is more teachable than anybody else, it's kids. kids are a sponge. Their mind is a sponge. They are interested. They're excited. You can make anything interesting and exciting to a kid, and they'll want to listen and be a part of it, and things like that. And it seems like as we get older, our mentality changes, our faith changes, a lot of things changes in our lives, and it's like we just kind of gravitate away from that, Nick. And maybe you can speak to why. I've got my own thoughts and processes about it, but maybe you have a better reason than I do. I don't know.
Better reason? I don't know if I'd say it's a better reason.
Yeah,
but
it's a reason. It's different than mine. There we go. I'll say that.
No, I think that we, of course, as adults, we have a lot of, I guess, I don't even say we have, but we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to accomplish certain things, do things a certain way, all these sorts of things. We put a lot of thoughts and ideas and expectations on ourselves, or other people put it on us as well, to where we feel like we have to fit into a certain box, or we have to do things a certain way or be a certain way. And so I think it's kind of hard and difficult for us to revert back to that childlike thing, because, we think we have to have an answer for everything. We think we have to, be able to do this or do that, and so it's hard for us to utilize our imagination per se, or to be childlike, to think that anything is possible, because I think society pushes us down a lot to make us think that nothing is possible. There's so much fear and anxiety out there to think, I don't have a good enough job, I'm not making enough money, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, and I think society as a whole, and we talk a lot about how, dangerous it can be to completely envelop yourself in society. And I think, I guess really I'm going to go back to what you said about kids being sponges. I think adults are sponges, but in the opposite way. I think adults soak up a lot of negativity, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, and all those sorts of things. It's like we're two different sponges. Sponges meant for soaking up two different things. Sponges and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of adults, we soak up a lot of negativity, a lot of hate, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of arguing, a lot of this, that, and the other, and so we get so full of all of this that it's heavy and it's burdensome. And we forget that it's okay to wring ourselves out, to get rid of all that stuff, to flush it all out, and it's like kids, they're just they're soaking up all this useful information, but they are so active. It's just like they're just constantly, it's like they have a better balance of things than we do. They don't let all these things burden them or get them all upset or weighed down or anything like that. They're free to just kind of, they don't have a lot of responsibilities. They don't have anybody relying on them to do anything. They don't have, a lot of things that adults do have. And so they're more free to kind of be expressive and to just see things and be hopeful and all those sorts of things. They don't really understand, because we as adults, we have to put pen to paper to make it make sense. Can we afford this vacation? Well, let's budget this out. Let's see how much money we got. Can I afford to do this, or can I afford to do that, or do I have enough time to do this or enough time to do that? Where we're constantly budgeting and writing stuff down and moving stuff around, where kids, they're just at the whim of their parents. They're just there doing whatever they want to do until someone tells them otherwise. They're not worried about if it's possible. Like how many times you go to a store, your kid, it's like, hey, I want that, I want this, and you're like, we don't have enough money for this or that. And they're like, well, why not? They have that money goes on trees mentality. They think that anything's possible. They don't think about the opposite, right? Does it? I mean, it kind of does.
Yeah,
money is trees, isn't it? I don't know how exactly that works.
Yeah, I think
paper
it is.
tree, I don't know. But I guess everything's digital these days. It seems like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really long roundabout way just to say that adults have a lot more on their plate, a lot more on their mind, a lot more responsibility, and I think society puts a lot of pressure on them to have everything figured out and to make a plan for everything and budget for everything. And where kids, they don't have all those weights and expectations and responsibilities on them, so they're free to just do and to just hope and to dream and to imagine and all those sorts of things. But we as adults need to revert back to that childlike mentality just a little bit, and because when it comes to faith, faith doesn't make sense. Writing stuff down makes sense. Budgeting makes sense. All these sorts of different things that we try to do to control things make sense to us, or at least we try to make it make sense. But I think it's our job when faith comes into the picture. We have to revert back to that childlike way of thinking. To where everything could be possible, anything could be possible if we just have enough faith and trust in God.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying about just adults having a lot on their plates and things like that, like I get that. I feel like 1,000%, but I also think we get lost in the sauce a lot of times of comparing kids and saying, like we're called children of God. That's what the Bible calls us. And then we have our regular children out here that we try to, grow up and make them successful people in society and things like that. And it's like, but we spend a lot more time, I feel like, trying to conform our kids to society versus, or a system versus, saying, hey man, look, God's got a path mapped out for you. Sometimes it doesn't include college. Sometimes it does include college. Sometimes it's going to include going to a business and work. Sometimes it's going to involve starting your own business. Sometimes it's going to involve different people, different places, different things. And from my side of things, I feel like we get caught up a lot in trying to introduce kids and things into systems because we settled for systems ourselves. I've talked a lot about this, about being from a very, 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 very small town, even smaller than what we are right now, where we're at right now. And I mean, there are no stoplights. There's barely stop signs where I'm from, and very rarely a blacktop road. Most of the time it's gravel or something like that. But anyways, like the mentality of where I come from is, hey, you get a few acres, you have a house, you get a family, you work the job that's close. It might be driving a truck, it might be working in a factory, it might be something like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's the mentality of a good life. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But if you have, say, like a kid that is born into that area with a dream that says, well, I'm going to go to New York, or I'm going to go to LA, or I'm going to go to Chicago, or, I'm going to travel the world, or I'm going to do something great with my life. It seems like more times than not that we will, because we have been a part of the system or scenario for so long, we will look at that child as well and be like, well, like, let's tone that down just a little bit, like before we do New York and LA and Chicago and traveling the world, like, we need you to settle down and have 2.2 kids and, get you an acre of land. And it's like, and by the way, we need you to do this around the, 30 or before, because if you do it after 30, you're behind. But if you do it way early, then you might not know. And so I feel like that we get into systems and scenarios where it's like we judge success by what the world has told us success is, and the path that the world has told us to take to get to that success. And the truth of the matter is that you're not always going to have a degree to get into a certain situation. You're not always going to have to, be at a certain point or a certain level to do this, that, or the other. It's really about operating in God's timing and watching Him put this piece in this puzzle and this picture together in front of you. And so, in that regards, it's like whenever we talk about children, as we alluded to many times today, like children don't know what's happening in the next 10 minutes. They have no mindset of time, of money, of nothing like that. And for us as adults, like we get tore all to pieces. We try to schedule out all 24 hours. We try to schedule out money. We try to schedule out everything. And I think for Christ, whenever He's talking at this point in time to His disciples, it's like, yo, man, it's like, let's step back a little bit, because back then, Jesus had more of a problem with religious people than He did sinners. And so, the religious people was beating people down and saying, you will never accomplish this, never be this, look at us, you need to be holy like us, blah, blah, blah. And Jesus was like, yo, man, look, like, you are so nasty on the inside. It's crazy. And you're pointing people in the wrong direction. And so, it was dangerous to fall into a mindset like that. So when He pulled that child to the side and said, hey, look, you need to reteach yourself like this child is right here. This child is so willing to learn and able to learn, be teachable, right? And excited to learn. So with a kid, man, it's just like, I think I'm not saying go out and, and just blow your whole paycheck in one day and be like, God's going to take care of me the other 6. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, right? I'm not saying like just wake up and do nothing all day with your time and just sit in front of a TV and watch TV and like, God's going to take care of me. I'm not saying that. What I am trying to say is that I feel like that we put so many parameters around money, around time, around everything that a child doesn't cherish, right? Or doesn't, it's just free flowing. It's like, oh, I got this. I think we put so many parameters around it that we do lose our faith and we do lose our hope and our joy and our peace and things like that, because again, going back to what you said, we have to make it make sense. We have to make it add up and do right. And if it doesn't, then what happens? At what point does that happen? And it's crazy to me, and then I'll shoot it back over to you, is that, even punishment wise, a child doesn't have, you have to sit down and explain to a child why they're being punished for. Then, the punishment at the time may hurt, but then 3 minutes later, they're back up playing again. Like, there's so much that we can learn from the child's psyche, I feel like, from the mindset And because if God disciplines us, we're mad for 32 years. We never get over it. We always remember. We always go back to it, and it's the basis of every decision we make, everything we do. It's like it's that one moment. A child, 3 minutes, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, I got whooped. What did I get whooped for?
Let me do it again.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's just this mentality of this freedom, of just like, oh man, it's cool. It's cool. It's I'm doing this now. I get to do this now. I get to do this now. And I just wish, man, that more adults, more people would pick up that mentality, that childlike faith that we talked about today.
Yeah, I think it's just something that's just been extraordinarily lacking in most adults for centuries. I mean, it's just like this mindset, this idea that, everything has to be cookie cutter, everything has to look this way, behave this way, all this sort of thing. We put, we didn't accomplish what we wanted to, and so we put those expectations on our own kids. And
right.
Like, you're not going to do anything because I couldn't do anything, your grandpa couldn't do anything, your great grandpa couldn't do anything. Like, this is all you're going to be able to do. And I think we do that unconsciously sometimes. I don't think we are specifically set out to, deter our kids and their dreams and things of that nature. But, I think I saw something the other day where it was like, a father is like the only person, or a son is the only person a father wants to do better than him. Something like that, something along those lines. I think it's, we say that, but I don't know how often it's actually true. I think we want better for our kids, but we've been formed and shaped by the things we've been through, and so we unconsciously, raise our kids up the same way with the same thoughts and expectations.
I heard a great podcast about this. Actually, it was from a family therapist, and they were talking, and this family therapist was talking about how we discipline and we view and our thought process is through how we were taught. And so, for us to, and it's scary, but as we were talking about on Wednesday night and even today, we have to unlearn everything we've been taught in order to learn the ways of Jesus. Not our ways, not what we've been taught, not what's been ingrained in us, but what Jesus would want us to do, how he would want us to love, how he would want us to forgive, how he would want us to teach, how he would want us to navigate our faith. And that's scary, but it's like, again, going back to what you were saying, it's to me, it's scary to do that, but on the other side, it's a lot more scary to think about what I'm missing or what I'm enabling other people to do because I'm trying to project the way that things have flowed through me and think that that's okay type situation.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we should want the next generation to grow up better than we grew up. Right. And I think that there are moments and times where all parents can agree. They've taken kids on vacations they maybe couldn't have afforded because they wanted their kids to have more fun than they did. They've bought their kids more things than they did because when they were kids they couldn't afford to have a lot of gifts given to them every day and all that kind of stuff. And it's so like I think we do try to do better for our kids, but at the same point in time I think we also are guilty of unconsciously pushing our lives on them, what we experienced, what we grew up with, how we were formed, and I think we unconsciously push that on them on occasions. But all of that's just to say, though, I think we as adults need to understand that it is, number one, it's okay, because I think this is really, I think, one of the biggest holding points for a lot of adults is that they think that if they let go of the reins, it's like some people have like this death grip so bad that their like fingertips are white. They're just like, I have to have things done this way, because this is how my dad said it has to be done. This is how his dad said things have to be done. And if they're not done this way, it's not going to work out, and yada, yada, yada. But I think it's important for us to let go of those reins, to say, hey, it's okay. And, I think there's a level of maturity there that we have to practice, that we have to utilize. But, I think we have to be able to say that anything is possible while using wisdom to make the right choices. I guess. And so, there are things out there, that may seem outlandish, that may seem crazy. You may look at your kid, I want to be president, and again, we sit there, okay. we laugh, give them that little quick, pat on the shoulder. Okay. Yeah. But again, why are we acting like that? And I think it's because we're so afraid to dream ourselves.
It is.
And I think that's really what I'm trying to get at here is that we as adults need to be okay, that, it is okay to think about and to dream and to imagine. We get so, I think, I'm kind of stumbling here, but what I'm trying to say is there's a song on, so you may have seen it, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, right? All right, so there's a song called "Pure Imagination" in this.
Are we talking about the old one?
The old one, yeah, the old original one.
Like,
so there's
what's his name? Gene
Wilder.
Gene Wilder. Okay.
So it's one of my, if not my favorite, one of my favorite songs of all time. It's called "Pure Imagination," which is basically just it's this song that Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka sings in a way to kind of get these adults, even not just the kids, but these adults to see things through these kids' eyes. To think that anything is possible, to be childlike again, to think about how just to have fun, to be whimsical, and all these sorts of things. And it's so important for us, I think, as adults to occasionally let go of the reins, and have fun with the kid. Don't worry. And it's as crazy as this is going to sound to people, don't worry about getting that bill paid. Take some time to spend playing with your kids, investing in them and showing them what it's like, because at the end of the day, as much as you don't want to think they do, you could be sitting in your kitchen with your wife arguing back and forth with a pile of unpaid bills, not knowing what you're going to do, freaking out. Your kids see that.
Oh yeah.
And they see that, and they're going to react to that. And so what I'm challenging people to do is not to necessarily hide the real from your kids, but to also take part in the unreal. To get down on them, to play, with them with their toys, to run around playing Star Wars in the yard, or to take them to things that they like, movies, and play games, and all those sorts of things.
And
right?
dragons.
No, we don't talk about that.
We don't.
We can't talk about that. It's a satanic panic, where it's
Is
like
it?
opposite of church.
Whatever. But like I think about like games like that. You know what I'm saying? Like where it is a mindset, not a mindset, but it's like
The whole game is like imaginary.
imaginary, yes, and it's like you're writing this script of like this imaginary process that's going on, and it's like I think we need more of, I'm not saying like we need more Dungeons and Dragons type situation, but I think we need more stuff that challenges the mindset and the creativity of people. Because like these days, man, it's like everything is right here, right? And I'm holding up my cell phone right now. Like everything is right here in front of you. There's no reason to be creative, because why? Because everything is in front of you. Yeah, exactly. Like it's we have I think lost a lot of. Gosh, I don't know, man. I feel like we've just been dying slowly. I mean, honestly, I know that's kind of morbid.
The like childlike whimsy,
just to pick up and go and do, and I think that falls
spontaneity.
Yeah, there we go. I think that falls a lot on us. I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and throw rocks at people, because I've said this before. I'm very rigid. I'm very routine, even though I preach against it every single day of my life. And I'm like, I have an alarm set for every morning of work. I know when I'm supposed to get up. I know when I'm supposed to leave the house. I know when I'm go, and like if something doesn't happen that way, then hey, I'm coming in with my hair on fire. Like I told people about this the other day, and so I feel like that it is. I don't know if we get into the process of life. I don't know if we get comfortable with not challenging ourselves. I don't know if it's like, oh, I'm too old. We hear this a lot. I'm too old to learn a new process, or I'm too old to learn a new job, or I'm too old to learn something new. And it's like, you're never too old. It's just, where's your mindset at? Where's your mindset in it? And it's dangerous, because if we have Christians that have been Christians for 40 years, the question becomes, are they still working on their relationship with Jesus? Or are they going through the motions? I come to church, I read my Bible, I give a little bit, I pray, I go on about my day. I come to church, I give a little bit, I read my Bible, I go on about my day. Like where are we getting to a point as being a Christian, or chasing Jesus, or our relationship personally with Him? Are we challenging ourselves to step back and look and go, or even just in life in general, to step back and look and go, man, I tell you what, like I am so routine. I am so just stick in the mud type situation that if life comes at me in a different angle, I freak out. I freak out. I've got to take 4 pills for anxiety and depression and anger and frustration and mix them all together, and and everything else. And it's like, but a kid can just go with the flow. You may look at a kid 3 minutes from now and go, hey, I need to stop by here. We as adults will be like, I'll do it in the morning. Like forget that. Kids like, okay. Hey, can I get something while I'm in there? I mean, type situation. And I just, man, I know kids don't have the responsibility. I know they don't have, but honestly, like I said today, should we have the responsibility? Should we have the responsibility of thinking about, God, how am I going to pay every one of these bills this month?
It's like we just take things too seriously.
Right. Or should we go, you know what? The Lord, He's a provider. He's took care of me. He's blessed me. You know, we've never went without. Doesn't mean I may not have to change some things, switch some things around, or go a little bit different. But like, you know, there's 24 hours in a day. Am I going to spend 8 hours, 7 hours trying to sleep, 8, 10, 11 hours working, and then the rest of my life worrying to death about how I'm going to try to do this or that, you know? And so, yeah, to take a step back and to just kind of say, hey, look, like as Jesus pulled this child up and said, hey, let's have the faith like this child. Let's believe like this child. Let's be teachable like this child, man. I feel like that we can learn a lot from our kids, and instead of trying to discipline and fuss and harp and lead, guided, direct, like we could just kind of step back and see how they see things and see how they deal with things, and you know, I mean, it could help us a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think it even goes back to, we've talked about many times with this podcast, is about empathy and being able to see through the eyes of someone else. You know, and I think we oftentimes get, I think we feel like a lot of things in life, like it has to be this way or that way. Like we have to either show wisdom in all decisions, or we can be loose and creative with everything. You know, we neglect to think that we could do both. You know, and I think that's where we need to get to as Christians. You know, we need to have wisdom to know what to do, how to do it, but also we have to be flexible enough to allow to trust God with it, rather than being so rigid that, you know, things have to be this way. You know, because I think we fool ourselves into thinking that we're doing the right thing. You know, if I'm using, you know, if I got everything labeled out, spelt out, you know, spent out, budgeted out, whatever else, if I have everything done that way, that's what God wants me to do.
Right.
You know, this is, you know, I'm using the wisdom that God gave me to do what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it, but in the process we lose that childlike faith that we've been talking about. You know, we don't even think about it. We don't think that we've lost it, because we think that we fool ourselves into thinking we're doing the right thing. We think that, you know, we had enough faith that God gave us the wisdom to do and to set out and to plan out everything. But we neglect the idea, because that's when, you know, a car breaks down, or when something, you know, in our life happens and it just throws us for a complete loop. We lose our mind, we go crazy, and, you know, we flip out and we think the world's ending, you know, but it's just because we think that we're doing things the right way when we're not. You know, we think that we're having faith, and we think that our faith is giving us wisdom to do what we're supposed to do, have it all spelt out, laid out, all that. But what we neglect to see is that all of that is just us, you know, hiding, you know, control under the guise of wisdom. You know, we're trying to control everything. You know, we're not just being wise, we're trying to be controlling. You know, and I think we need to be able to be flexible enough to be both wise and creative, to be, you know, both, you know, structured and flexible. I think we just need to make sure that we can, you know, as Christians, be creative while also using wisdom, you know, and to make sure that we don't go, you know, crazy. Like you said, you know, there's a difference between, you know, trusting God with your finances and spending all your money out here, like, you know, buying everything you want today.
Your check hits Friday morning, and by Friday night you're broke, and you're like, hey, the Lord's got me. He's never let me down. It's
like, you know, but then you take, okay, you know, you're running tight on paycheck, you know, you're really tight on your money this week, and your kid just, you know, this new game comes out, and your kid just really, really wants it. You know, they're wanting to play it, they're wanting to have fun, they want to play it with you, they want to play it with their friends, and you're like, God, I really can't afford this. But, you know, and just to be able to treat your kids, just be able to flex a little bit, you know, sure, you know, I'll do this. If I have to cut back on eating out this week, I'll do it, just to make sure my kid has this. I think you even mentioned that at Christmas one year. You know, like, you know, we could be, you know, really tight on our money, and, you know, but, you know, if our kid wants this, we want to make them happy, you know, we want to be flexible. And, you know, there's that time where you have to, you know, I think there's a time for rigidity, structure, whatever you want to call it.
I don't know.
There's a time to be rigid. There we go. There's a time to be rigid, but there's also time to be flexible. I think that we need to be able to have the freedom and the flexibility to be both. You know, we have to know when, you know, I think, you know, we have to have the wisdom to know when we need to be rigid and structured, but we also have to have the wisdom to know when it's okay to be flexible, you know, when it's okay. And that's where faith comes in. You know, I mean, I'm really struggling this week, but, you know, there's this woman out here at Walmart that can't pay her grocery bills this week, and God's like, hey, give it, you know, and that structure would say, absolutely not. You can't afford. No, I didn't have that situation happen.
Made up scenario.
This did not happen. Well, not to me anyway.
For enhancement purposes only.
For creativity purposes.
Yeah, there you go.
But again, you know, like, you know, just to say, you know, for example, you're out there at Walmart, and, you know, you barely afforded the groceries that you had then. You know, you have some left over for the rest of the week and all that, and then, you know, this woman right in front of you, know, right beside you, can't afford to pay it. God's like, pay it, and then you're like, that rigid structure in your brain says, absolutely not.
You
know, I can't do that. But then that creative, flexible side, that spiritual spiritual, faithful side of you says, hey, God wants you to do this, you're going to be okay. If you're obeying him, he's going to take care of you. And I think that's where, again, we need to be able to have both wisdom and creativity, structure and flexibility, if we want to be a successful Christian, if we want to be successful spiritually, faithfully, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, and I mean, when you say the word flexible, a lot of people will snarl their nose at it. Flexible, like, oh man, like that means I'm going to have to not have a hard set in place schedule, routine, things like that. And it's like, that is exactly what being a kid is all about, is being flexible in every sense of the word. I mean, like when you're 7 or 8, you can be flexible in the physical, and when you're 57 or 58, you're like, oh my God, I just wish I was a kid again, you know. And so, like, being that flexible, but it's also with the mindset, it's with the heart placement. We talked about today about how, like, kids, man, can literally be just thankful to be in a situation. They can be, they can be so flexible with how they see people and punishment and whatever. Like, it's so crazy. My son, who is he's autistic, and he's got like even a more different spin on life. Sometimes he'll see things differently than what a lot of people do. But I will never forget a statement that he made to me. It's probably been a couple, 3 years ago now, but he looked at me one day and he said, Daddy, he said, there's no bad people in the world, just people who don't know Jesus. And I like, even saying it now kind of gets me a little bit choked up, just a little bit, because I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, we are the first people, and God, not to open up a can of worms, but, like this whole Olympics thing, with the Last Supper and, people mocking the Last Supper and drag queens and all that good stuff. Like, say what you want, think what you will type situation. But, it's like Christians were so shocked and appalled by that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be, okay? I'm not saying that it shouldn't stir something in your spirit or anything like that. But here's the deal too. I truly feel like that we shouldn't be shocked and appalled because these people don't know Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, they, if they knew Jesus and they represented Jesus and they had this and they done this, that would be a problem. I feel like that would be something that we needed to address. With the way that it is now, it's like, why am I shocked and appalled that somebody who doesn't know Jesus would do something to mock Jesus? You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like the sinners are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Who's not doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah,
Christians.
I even think it's from, as you were saying, it's like, it's from a group of people who have felt mocked their whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be 100% honest, and empathetic here, you're talking about a group of people who, they've been mocked their whole life, made fun of their whole life, by comedians, by Christians, by news, by this, by that,
Right.
And we think, we were like so shocked that a group of people who've been mocked their whole lives would be willing to mock someone else.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what bullying is. You take a bunch of kids, who have been mistreated, neglected, hurt, yelled at, abused, and wonder why they are also being, mistreated, why they're mistreating others and yelling at people and abusing and all these sorts of things, and it always takes me back again to that time I was up in Frankfurt, with the gender rights activists that were there, and the whatever you want to call the group of people that was there. I can't remember exactly. And then the next day there was a group of Christians there.
Yeah.
And, they weren't together. The Christians weren't there that first day when the people fighting and crying and upset about trans rights and about gay rights and about, all these different things. There were no Christians there, talking to people, trying to, get to know them, trying to love on them, and I have to think that at some point, may not be true, but, I have to think at some point, those people, they felt jaded, they felt hurt, they felt angry, they felt neglected, they felt made fun of, they felt mocked, and they have found a group of people that they can fit in with, and it's a loud group of people, that are vocal about what they want. And, and again, I just think it's, us as Christians, we have got to do a better job of putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations. We're so afraid of being seen in the wrong time, at the wrong place, with the wrong people.
Yeah.
That, we neglect a giant group of people. And I mean, it's not just a certain specific section of people that I'm talking about, but, there's so many people out there, that feel jaded by God, that feel jaded by Christians, that feel, neglected and abused, and, all these sorts of different things, and I'm not saying that, one thing is right, one thing is, what I'm trying to say is that we as Christians, I'm not sitting here and saying that what happened at the Olympics was or wasn't horrific and all these, whatever, some of these people out here on Facebook are calling it.
Some people about jumped off the bridge because of it, man.
It's just absolutely, and I mean, I sit there and I think back to this Facebook post I actually made a couple days ago when I decided to get off Facebook for a while. But I made that point on there. I said, we're a group of people who are so upset about certain things and the way things are done. And we have groups of people right now, as Christians, I'm just going to be honest, I'm going to say it. We have Christians right now that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars pouring into political campaigns. And we still have, that every time you go to Winter Jam, people trying to feed the hungry. We have people in your church right now who don't have a car. You have people in your church right now that need help with medical bills. You have people in your church right now that need help staying the lights on, keeping water in their house, but you're pouring money into a political campaign. You call yourself a Christian. You're a Christian organization pouring money into something that's not. Right. That is not Christian. I don't care which way you want to spin it, who you want to say it. I mean, you're spending your money, your time, your effort, campaigning for, paying for, and helping out a flawed human being when you can't give to church, when you can't come to church, when you can't tithe at church, when you can't give to the people in the pew next to you. We just have things so backwards. And I think we get so hot and so heated and so frustrated about these hot button issues, whether it's, trans rights or drag queens or, whatever else you want to throw out there. I think we need to get back to, just the basis of Christianity, like these kids. And this is where I'm going with this whole thing, like that childlike faith. I think back to, I remember one time, this was back when a lot of the race issues were happening here in America a few years ago. Yeah. I remember back being at Kentucky Kingdom, in Louisville, Kentucky, and my daughter, she's 7 now. I think she was maybe 4, then 3 or 4, something like that. We were out there at the water park, she was having fun playing, and there was this, little black boy that was just, sitting there playing, and she was, all over him, talking to him, helping him out, playing with him. And I'm like, how stupid is it, in America that we still have people and adults and Christians that are struggling with something as silly as racism, and I'm like, but we look at these kids who they don't know a stranger. Yeah. They don't, they aren't naturally hating a certain group of people. They aren't naturally going against a certain group of people. It's not natural. Yeah. And that's where we need to get back to that childlike faith of just, being able to communicate with anyone, being able to have uncomfortable, they shouldn't be uncomfortable conversations. Yeah. We should be able, willing to talk to anybody without fear of what somebody's going to say about us or anything like that. Kids don't. Kids go out here and talk to anybody. They don't care what anybody else is going to say about them. Right. But we as Christians are so afraid of hanging out. I think it was Craig Rochelle was talking about going to a bar to meet a friend once that was wanting to know more about Jesus. He's like, he was sitting there. His first thought was being worried that somebody from church was going to see him go into this bar. Yeah. And it's just like we're so afraid of what other people are going to say. We're so afraid of what other people are going to do that we neglect groups of people. And we neglect all, and we just, it's not even that we just neglect these groups of people, but we need to have that childlike mentality of where there are no strangers. Yeah. Where we are able and willing to do the work necessary instead of getting on Facebook and complaining about it and yelling about it. Just think, I like to think when I see situations like that, I'm like, how many people have ever reached out? Everybody that was in that depiction, again, call it the Last Supper, call it a representation of a Greek festival, whatever you want to call it, but whatever it was, how many Christians have ever reached out? How many people in that whole ordeal were ever reached out to by a Christian and shown the love of Christ? Right. And, we get so upset and frustrated and fearful and say, oh, they're trying to destroy Christianity. They're pushing us out over there. Say what you will, believe what you will, but at the bottom line, at the end of the day, when you see something like that, and I think this is where I'm trying to get to, when you see something like that, your first reaction shouldn't be anger. It should be, your first reaction should be, I need to be doing more. I need to be reaching out more. I need to be having conversations. I need to be praying with people, talking to people, helping people, giving to people, serving people. That needs to be your first reaction. Not, I'm going to get on Facebook and tell everybody I'm not supporting the Olympics anymore. Like,
I'm not watching them.
Get over it.
I'm not watching them, even though you are watching them.
Yeah. I'm like, get over it. And I think if you wanted to pick it, we talk about this all the time. You want to pick a hill, die on it.
Yeah.
If you're
going to make a mountain out of a molehill, be willing willing to die on it, man.
I'm not supporting anybody who,
Yeah.
or I'm not supporting any company who supports X, Y, and Z. Well, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Like, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Unless you're, like,
Off
forgive
the
me, unless
grid.
you're Amish, you living on the side of the
Off
road. in
the grid,
like,
bro.
Like, unless you're off the grid, you're
Yeah.
supporting people
Somehow, some
somehow,
way.
some way. You know, don't
Absolutely.
think you're any higher or more almighty than anybody else. You just
Yeah.
want a reason to be upset and mad. And again, as a Christian, seeing things like that, seeing things that, you know, like that we're seeing all across the world right now, you know, our first reaction shouldn't be anger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's just, and it's not even anger as much as it's just, I want to be heard. I want to be seen just like
Yeah.
they do,
Yeah.
you know, and again, it's all about having empathy. It's all about, you know, asking God before you post something, you know, God, how do you want me to react to this situation? You know, and I think that it's something even I need to get better at. You know, I see situations, I react to them all the time. You know, and I know I shouldn't, and I regret it afterwards, but,
Right.
you know, I think that's just, you know, and I know that's a very, very long way to say what I just said, but I think
very
it's a
long
very
way.
long way, you know, it's fine. But again, I think it's just so important for us as Christians to, you know, when we see, you know, hurt people doing things, you know, whatever it may be, whether they're mocking God, whether
Right.
they're killing people, whether they're assaulting people, whether they're stealing or rampaging through the streets or rioting or, you know, whatever they're doing, you know, our first reaction as a Christian, if your first reaction as a Christian is to get angry and go to Facebook and talk about it, you need to check your heart. You know, you really need to check your heart position and ask yourself, you know, why do I feel that this is the right reaction to this situation? You know, and if you're not
Because
willing,
it's so easy.
it is. It's easy. It gets us attention. It
Yeah,
gets us
it's
that
so
attention that
easy.
we crave so desperately.
And it gets something stirred up in the process, and,
Yeah.
and then we feel wanted and needed, and we go to bed happy.
Yeah.
You know,
Happy
our
is in
endorphins,
quotations, right?
Yeah,
Happy in
our endorphins
quotations.
have been fed, and we're good to go at that point. And
Yeah, and I'm not saying, you know, because I mean, I know there are people who are going to hear kind of what I said and take it a different way. You know, I'm not saying that they're not things that the Bible says that we should be against. You know, I'm not
Right.
saying that, but what I am saying is, you know, you can be against something and not react, you know, in a certain way.
Right.
You know, you can control your reaction. You're responsible for your reaction.
Yeah.
You can either freak out, get mad, cuss somebody out, make a post on Facebook, or you can pray and help and serve.
Well, I think honestly too. I think number one, people are going to remember the event in question. I think they're going to remember what happened, but they're also going to remember the response of people. And you know, and it's
I know
like,
who I can definitely not trust to
Right,
talk to
and
about my
it's-
feelings or my problems or my difficulties
Exactly.
any longer because
And
of what
it's
you posted.
because of what you posted and what you said and what your stance is and so on and so forth. And you know, and that's what I mean by, like, you know, whenever we were talking about kids, it took me back, man, and it's been a minute, but it took me back to like being the first day of kindergarten. And I know that's been a while ago, but like I'm thinking to myself, like, whenever you walked in that day, you walked in on equal footing because nobody knew anybody whatsoever.
Unless you're from a small town.
And well, yeah, and I was, but we still didn't know anybody. That's the crazy part. Like, you know, the first day of kindergarten, like, you didn't know anybody. Like, it's just, you walked in on the same footing, and you know, you were, I ain't gonna say forced to make friends, but like, hey, that day would go by a lot quicker if you just started talking to people. You know, and it wasn't like, you know, oh, how much money do you make, or where does your family live, or, you know, anything like that. It was just like, what's your favorite color? You know, red? Oh, mine too. Oh, you like Super Mario? You know, that was Mario. Sorry.
Yeah, I almost had a stroke there when you
I
said
know. It's like, you know, you brought a Super Mario beach blanket to sleep on today during sleep time? Me too, bro. You know, like,
I think back to
fantastic.
those little kids who are like, it's like this little white kid and this little black kid, and they're both standing there wearing the same shirt and like, we're twins. You
Yeah.
know, and it's just like that mentality.
Yeah.
And I love it. You
Yeah.
know, and I wish more adults could have
What
that
did you bring
mentality.
for lunch? A bologna and cheese sandwich? Me too. Like, you know, let's swap chips and stuff like that. And it's like, here's this crazy part, and we talked about this too today, where it was like, you know, kids will give because they don't have any perception of things, of money, of time, of nothing else. And so, you know, if it's their last crayon, they don't care. It's like they will give you their last crayon and then go do something else. And, you know, for us, we would be like, let me use it until I get done, or hey, I'll go get you some crayons, or hey, you know, and it's like, it's, again, we get in this mentality mentality of me, and like you said with the Olympics thing, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I want my voice to be heard, and it's just like a kid, man. A kid is literally just excited to be somewhere, to be anywhere, to be a part of the process. We talked about going to kids class, like how they just run. They run to get to kids class, man. They run to get behind these doors, and to have a good time while they're in there. And I mean, as an adult, you ask the question, when's the last time that you ran to church? When's the last time you got up and said, man, I can't wait to get to church today. I can't wait. I set my alarm early so I could get here today. And it's like, it's just things like that, man, where, I say this a lot. I feel like we got a long way to go. I feel like we got a short time to get there. But I do feel like that as individuals, whether you're a Christian or not, who cares at this point? We're just talking about being a decent human being. At this point, I would love for your soul to know Jesus and for you to be in heaven one day. But let's just talk about being a decent human being just for a second. It costs zero, man, to be a decent human being, to smile at people, to be nice to people, to talk to people, come on now. But at the same point in time, we're looking at kids and going, they don't know nothing and they haven't been through nothing and they this and they that. And it's like, no, man, they can teach you a lot. If you just step back, watch the way they live, watch what they do, watch how they react, watch. The crazy part to me today was that everything that kids depend on their parents for, or us for, we depend on God for.
We should
depend on God for. And they trust us. They trust us. And it's like they trust, man, that food is going to be there. Hey, I'm hungry. Can you fix me something? Yeah, what do you want? They trust it's going to get done. We go to God and say, hey, God, I'm hungry. Can you do this for me? And we're like, okay, well, that took too long. I'm going to do it myself. Or this is not what I wanted. I'll just do it myself, God. And it's like, it's
emergency come up. I don't know if I'll be able to eat next week or not.
Right. And it's just like, step back, take a breath, take a break, take a moment. Look at how your kid lives. Look at how your kid does. Look at how your kid trusts. Look at how your kid does all this stuff. And it's like, take some notes, man. Learn something from it, and by God, be a better human. That's what I've got to say.
If we have anything else to say today,
just be a better human, man. Be a better human. So there you go.
One thing I really kind of want to touch on before we're done is just the fact of, I think you talked about it during the message was, while we need as adults sometimes be looking at kids, we also need to understand that our kids are looking at us.
Yeah.
We put expectations on our kids. We want our kids to grow up loving God and trusting God. And as you said, we want our kids to pray, but they don't see us pray. And I want to sit on that for a second. We want our kids to trust and treat God as a priority, but we don't. Oftentimes we as adults don't. When we're not feeling well, we don't show up to church. When it's raining, we don't show up to church. And then we're like, I hope my kid shows up to church when he's an adult or she's an adult. And they're like, well, you have to realize, again, they are soaking up what you are putting out. They see what you're doing. And they, again, if we really want our kids to grow up if we want our kids to grow up as better human beings, we need to be better human beings. If we want our kids to grow up as better Christians, we need to be better Christians. And I don't care how pointed this makes it points at you, or how whatever you want to say that I'm shaming you, whatever. But if you want your kids to be better Christians, you need to start being a better Christian. You start praying more, reading more, showing up more, serving more, giving more, all these different sorts of things. And it's not because I'm telling you to do it; it's because it's the right thing to do. I shouldn't have to tell you to do it. If you've read the Bible, I shouldn't have to tell you to do it. Keenan shouldn't have to tell you to do it. It should just be something you want to do, something you feel like you're supposed to do, something you need to do. And I think that's something that we need to get back to. We need to we need to understand that our kids are watching us while we're watching them. We need to learn from them just like they need to learn from us. It's a cycle. It really is. Life is a cycle, and we're constantly being so. We're filled as Christians. We're so anxious, so angry, so frustrated, so spiteful. And this is another thing gets me about that whole situation. Not to go back, but like all these posts that are like, God will not be mocked. You should all be. All these things that were so pointed at these people. Again, I know as Christians, you call out what's sin for sin, you call it what it is. But, again, as we said, we're trying to create an environment where anyone feels comfortable enough to come up and talk about who Jesus is. You know, we want to be able to that where anybody can, you know, and when we're not careful about what we're posting, what we're saying, how we're saying it, what we're posting, how we're posting it, you know, we have to understand that our kids are looking at us, but so is other people.
Right.
You know, there are people that are looking at you and saying, I don't know if I want Christ, if that's what it is.
Right.
You know, I don't know if I thought, you know, God was a God of love. I don't know if I want that if that's what that is. You know, if you're calling for, you know, everybody in Olympics to feel the wrath of God, you know, like, I don't know if I want that.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, there's some people just there to compete.
Yeah. Some people just want, you know, they just want a medal, right?
Yeah.
Some people are just happy to be there. You know, I mean, like, some people, oh my God, I can't believe I made it to the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And we're like, absolutely, and I don't care about any of those athletes, any of their dreams, anything that they've done, because
Banish
they're
the
running
Olympics, man, all of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. And again, I get it. But again, we just have to be, as Keenan said, just to be better people, be better Christians, understand that we're, you know, I guess, you know, not to be so selfish, understand that our kids are watching us, that not necessarily the whole world's watching us, but our world is watching us. The people around us, the people that make up our world, you know, they're watching us. They're paying attention to what we're saying. They're paying attention to how we react. Yeah, they're waiting for us to mess up. I mean, I'll be 100% honest. I think they are. I think they're waiting for us to mess up to say, you know, I knew that that's who that was. I knew that's what Christ was. You know, all those sorts of things. But we need to make sure that the example that we're putting forth, whether it be for our kids, whether it be for our coworkers, whether it be for our classmates, whether it be for our fellow congregants in a church, we just need to make sure that the image that we are presenting is one that Christ wants us to present. You know, and if you're not sure of what that is, read the Bible, you know, pray about it, talk to God about it. You know, ask God to reveal to you what needs to change. Reveal to you, you know, because we're so used to we've grown up in an environment that maybe maybe we grew up in an environment that was filled with hate. Maybe we grew up in an environment that was filled with anger and frustration and fear and anxiety. But you know that with God, all things are possible. You know, you can change you don't have to be your parents. We talk about that all the time with alcoholics, you know, or addicts. You know, you don't have to be an addict like your parent was. You don't have to be an addict like your grandpa was. You know, you have the ability to make different choices, you know, and so, you know, it's up to you to change what you grew up in if it's not fitting with what God wants you to be, you know, and so I think that that's just an important part of what we do on this podcast is, you know, we understand people suck, people do stupid things, say stupid things, act stupid ways, but, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we are called to love them anyway, not hate them anyway, not yell at them anyway, not, you know, not spite them anyway or whatever else. You know, we're called to love them anyway. They make stupid choices. They do things that we don't agree with, but it's our job to love them anyway.
Yeah. And, you know, to kind of end on that, with the love situation, I've preached about it before, but I call it the love test. And if you ever, I think it is a great injustice and tragedy almost that the only time you ever hear 1 Corinthians 13 is weddings. That's it, really. And you hear the love is patient, love is kind type situation, but I call it the love test. And it's like, if you truly want to know if you're measuring up to what it means to be a Christian and love like a Christian, then you can go over to 1 Corinthians 13, read verses 4 through 8, and everywhere it says love, put your name. And if you can say that, like the very first verse says, love is large and incredibly patient. If you can replace your name with Keenan is incredibly patient, put your name in there.
Well, dang, already failed.
Yeah, exactly. Keenan is gentle and consistently kind to all. Oh, my God. You know, Keenan refuses to be jealous when blessings come to someone else. Keenan does not brag about one's achievements nor inflate his own importance. You know, Keenan does not traffic in shame and disrespect nor selfishly seek his own honor. Keenan is not easily irritated or quick to take offense. Keenan joyfully celebrates honesty and finds no delight in what is wrong. Keenan is a safe place of shelter for he never stops believing the best for others. Keenan never takes failure as defeat because he never gives up. Like,
that needs to be a Facebook post. That'd be people alive.
Like that. Like, whenever you begin to insert your name into Scripture and be like, "Am I really living up to this?
Make it personal.
Am I really embodying what this Scripture says, or am I just reading it and being like, love is patient, love is kind, you know, or are you putting your name in it and going, am I patient? Am I kind? Am I a strong shelter, a safe shelter for people? I don't take, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going. Things like that. Like whenever you read the Bible in a personal sense like that, I think it comes more alive to you. But not only that, I think it can gauge where your love is and where your true relationship with Jesus is, and how you're operating in Christianity, in the process. So, again, we thank you so much. I know we've kind of bounced around a little bit, but I think we've done pretty well holding it together, and the walls of love and kids, and just seeing everybody the way that kids would see people, and Jesus wants you to see people through love and the way his eyes see people, and so on and so forth. So we thank you for tuning in. We thank you for being a part of the process. Hopefully we've said and done something along the way that will help change your mind, change your heart, change your life. That's what we do this for. And until we see you again, we love you and be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
As always, this is PKR, and for my sidekick, Nick, we say thank you very much for hitting that download button on People Suck, Love Them Anyways. Be sure to tell a friend, tell a family member to hit that download button as well. And as always, we say thank you. Be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Hustle hard, hustle every